Here we have the first editions of the 4 books of Winnie the Pooh by A.A. Milne. My name is Pom Harrington and I'm the owner of Peter Harrington Books. Today I'm going to show you and explain to you what first editions of Winnie the Pooh are and the different variations of the first editions that you can have. We'll kick off straightforwardly with the regular trade editions which are here. Basically the concept of where the stories come from are from when we were very young, the very first book published. So Milne and Shepard worked together at Punch magazine and they produced these short poems where Milne wrote the poems and Shepard did the illustrations. They're immensely popular, and on the back of the success of Punch magazine, they published these poems in a book format, and it was called When We Were Very Young. This came out in 1924, and to tell the first edition, very straightforwardly, it will say on the back here, first published 1924, and there's no mention of any other printing. This was issued in a nice blue cloth binding and issued in dust jacket. With all books, and particularly children's book, condition is everything, and in these particular cases, they are absolutely fine and beautiful. This book of verse was very popular, and it was actually popular and collected within its lifetime immediately. And they did actually produce the book in different variations, which I will show you in a second. Following success of that, they did the book of verse, which is the stories of Winnie the Pooh, which is really the most famous book of all. This was published in 1926. Marginally different. They did a nice green cloth, and rather than use sort of an off-white paper, they did a sort of orangey tinged jacket. And again, condition-wise, this one's absolutely beautiful. That was produced, 30,000 copies of that, Winnie the Pooh, compared to 5,100 copies of When We Were Very Young. The popularity demonstrated in that. A year later, he did another book of poetry called Now We Are Six. The confidence in the publishing of this was that they did 75,000 copies. 50,000 copies, I beg your pardon, 50,000 copies. We tell the first edition. Again, we want to see this. First published 1927, no mention of the second impression or second edition. Very important. So we know this is the true first edition. This was, again, a different colour. This one's in red. And the jacket, they did it with a slightly sort of tingy, bluey, greeny kind of tinge to it, which I think you can just about see on camera. It fades so easily. To actually have that colour, it's actually really quite rare. And again, this is a very nice example of it. The final book in the series is again back to book of prose, and there's more stories of the House of Pooh Corner. And this actually introduces Tigger for the very first time, and this was issued in pink, very striking. And the jacket was this sort of orangey jacket. And again, just to show you, we have the first published 1928 and no mention of second edition. So together, we have here all 4 volumes in fine condition of the first trade editions. So I mentioned other formats. The books were collected immediately, and they were definitely playing to the collector's market. In addition to these first trade editions, they also did a signed limited edition, and this is an example of the signed limited. Now, this is exactly the same from the same print run. The difference is they use different paper. And for this signed limited, in this case, the House of Pooh Corner, they use this handmade paper, and you can see sort of the rough edges feel to it. Much more luxury market and much larger than the trade edition. But the printing's the same. You can see it's just really wider margins, the same printing. Crucially, the limitation page, which I'll come to, will show you the limitation here. In this case, House of Pooh Corner was 350 copies, signed and numbered. They did exactly the same for Winnie the Pooh, 350 copies. For When We Were Very Young, being the first book, there's 113 copies. And for Now We're Six, they actually did 200 copies for the poetry. In addition to this limited edition, they did a super limited on Japon vellum. In this case, we have an example from the Winnie the Pooh. Now, they only actually did 3 the books in this super vellum binding, which were Winnie the Pooh, Now We're Six, and House of Pooh Corner. They never did one for when we were very young. And these super limited ones were actually limited to 20 copies only, and, if we can get to the page, were printed on Japon vellum and also signed by Milne and Shepherd. So you get 2 versions of the signed limited. They also did a sort of deluxe version of the trade. Again, exactly the same printing, same sheets. The difference is the binding. They were issued in this box and in this limp leatherette binding. Let me show you that. So the gilt shows up rather nicely. So different design again, but using the tooling. If I open it up, you'll see exactly the same printing. Here we are. Published in 1926. And these were more expensive, and these are 10 and 6. Condition being everything, and actually to have it in the box is very lovely and actually really quite rare. But between all these, you actually therefore can show all the different variations that they published. And it shows actually, well, A, the confidence the publishers had in Milne and these books, the fact they did these expensive collectibles to go with it. We're very fortunate to have it all here to show you in one go. For details of these books and other books that we might have on A.A. Milne, please see the Peter Harrington website.